Welcome to the first Ghost Club Artist Spotlight. Today we're going to be speaking to incredibly talented PJ Fidler. What's up, PJ?
Hey guys, what's happening?
Not much. What up, PJ? Thanks for coming through, man.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to talking to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, us too. It's we've had the luxury of kind of going through all your artwork recently. Obviously, we're trying to set up, this new form of communication with some of the people in Web3. Typically we're sitting in Twitter Spaces, and sometimes we're having conversations, and we can't even see the artwork. So we figured it might be a good opportunity or a good platform for us to do these artist spotlights where we get to discuss the projects with you in detail while we're looking at the work, and kind of get into detail about the stuff that's in there.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. I like this format as well. You're right. Every time I'm in Spaces, people are trying to upload images to the top, and so this is perfect for me.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hands off.
So I guess to start it off, why don't we just talk about real quickly what it is we're here to talk about. I know that you have this not new project, but new drop of 10 new cages. Is that correct?
Yeah. I started the Cages project last year. I think I dropped the first 15 last year, about around this time. I think it was my first stuff I put on OpenSea, if I remember right. And this was my total digital collection. A lot of times I'll paint and I'll use Photoshop, or I'll go back and forth between physical and digital. But this was majority of this is all digital, and yeah, it's been a great journey.
Yeah, we love it. And, me and Mumbot have been going through all the pieces in your OpenSea collection, your Foundation collection, and then I was on your website at pjfidler.com, and I saw the archive, and I was, not that I was never blown away, but I was seriously blown away when I got to see the archive and just see how far back this style and, this artwork you've been creating. It's pretty impressive, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Do you think you could maybe kind of lean into a little bit about, before NFTs and some of the stuff that was in the archive? I have an example in the top left corner. I believe it's, the horse. That's an old painting, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yep. And I also used that horse for one of the newer cages. I wanted to incorporate, some of the physical work, and I always really loved that piece. And I thought, what a perfect place. I'll put this dead unicorn in a cage.
Nice.
But yeah, so I guess the whole career path is kind of, I went to Art Center in Pasadena. I'm from a very small town in Central California where, no one tells you can be an artist or anything. And luckily I had an uncle who lived down here and kind of gave me a pathway. And I applied to Cal Arts with my really shitty paper portfolio with no one guiding me. I don't even think I had a pair of nice shoes when I went in for the interview. But I didn't get accepted, and I was kind of devastated when that happened, because I was I didn't know about any other art schools. I only knew about Cal Arts, and they're the only ones who came to our little junior college. And so I was pretty bummed. I was my family's they're iron workers, and I was well, I guess I'm gonna do roofs for the rest of my life. And luckily my uncle came in, and he had a client down here, and she gave him an Art Center catalog. And luckily I did it right that time. I went and talked to the school before I showed him anything, and luckily I got in. I was really happy, and I moved down to Los Angeles and ended up going to Art Center and did that.
Wow, that's awesome. I feel like there a lot of times there's people get this central figure that kind of help them kind of go in the right direction. And I know for me, there's probably moments where my path or career has kind of gone into different directions, and I met people along the way that were you can do this, or here are some options for you, and they just help provide a little maybe wisdom or direction to
Guidance.
Yeah, some guidance. And
yeah, I think that's always the case, and I always say it's always who you know as well. I mean, you got to be talented, but there's a lot to be said, about opportunities with people. For instance, this one, I met you guys through NFTs, and now we're talking about the artwork. So that's a great take on that.
no,
But I so I went to school for fine art initially, and I was in there, and I was like, no one really knew how to draw, including myself. So I changed to illustration minor because I really wanted to get, the basics down. So, and I think I ended up graduating later with a fine art major. I mean, an illustration major and a fine art minor. And illustration was a big part of my life. There, we had some great teachers like the Clayton brothers and Jason Hawley, who's amazing,
Mm.
and they really guided us. It really helped mentor me for sure into what I thought was going to be this lavish illustration career at the time. And so also art center's not cheap. Most colleges aren't, but I took out all loans to go to school.
Mm.
So I didn't work. I just was like, I'm going to take out the loans to do this, and I owed quite a bit of money coming out. And so once I graduated, I went down the illustration path, and I was getting some jobs here and there. But once my student loans kicked in, I knew I had to do something else. And during my last semester at Art Center, motion graphics was a new class. There wasn't a class about it before with After Effects, and there's an artist, Simon Chow, who was in either my term or the term before, but he still makes amazing stuff. But he was also an illustrator, and he was telling me about this class, so I ended up taking it because I really wanted to see my images move, and thankfully I did, because once I realized I was not going to be this famous illustrator right off the bat, that I needed to pay bills. So I got really lucky, got an interview with like the Entertainment Tonight. We did all their daily graphics, and this guy gave me a chance, and I got in, and I've been doing motion graphics ever since for work.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, I have an example. I'm gonna just pull up real quick of some of your motion graphics, some of the artwork, not the corporate stuff, but
yeah, corporate stuff's very boring. What we do mainly in the corporate side is, all the movies that are coming out, we now do the social media campaigns for them. But we'll also do them in a bunch of different languages.
cool. I just pulled up one of, I believe this is Partaking with Witches. I don't know what the rest of the title
In a Dirty Dreamcatcher, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. In a Dirty Dreamcatcher.
Do you want to talk about this piece a little bit?
Yeah, basically, this was an actual painting. Nothing was digital on this one except the animation. So, we had to go. This piece came about through a mushroom trip, or it was an else. I forget which it was, out in the forest. And, crazy stuff happens when you're out and doing things. And this is kind of where this piece came along. The title kind of, saying we're partaking with witches. There were no real witches out there. I think my mindset just portrayed everyone as witches at that time.
Yeah.
But the whole piece, that's kind of where this piece came from. But I really wanted to animate it and, learn some more techniques, because what we do in animation on the business side is a lot of text-heavy things. And I wanted to kind of get some more motion and some more animation into these figures and things like that. And not, one thing with me is I don't want to overly do it. I want it to kind of animate, I want it to look good, but not animate for animation's sake either. So, but with this piece, it was just fun to do. I learned a lot of techniques. This one's actually this was my second piece on Foundation. And
you have another one too, Dissipation, correct?
Yeah.
Right,
you have that one?
Yeah, I want to pull that one up real quick.
I love this one.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, this one was a lot of fun. And again, this came from another painting, and I put everything together. And, before NFTs and before this whole side of things, we were just, and I'm sure you guys were doing stuff too, just animating to animate your stuff and show on Instagram for free. And, once NFTs came around, it really took this kind of work and gave it a space, which is great.
I don't know who I was talking to, but the conversation was about the importance of having traditional forms of artwork and canvas, or prints and original things that you can kind of hold on, because there was something really strong and valuable about having that piece in your house. And they were comparing it to digital artwork. and how it's just different. And the conversation I had with him was based around, well, like, I feel like that type of experience in the future is kind of going to change, right? Like in terms of like the way that things are displayed and the tech that you have in your house will kind of lean towards, the ability to kind of showcase really different forms of digital artwork, and I know that these two particular pieces, they have sound in it. So I know that one of the things that I find interesting about the NFT space is how much I've seen a lot of artists evolve, right? And they've been using tech to kind of find new areas to kind of explore. I know that you did I don't know if it's a collaboration, but I know you helped Stephen Daly animate that train that we did for the Ghost Club.
Yeah.
And he was talking about that as well. He's like, through the NFT space, me and PJ met. I knew he was in motion graphics, and boom, and it just allowed me to kind of like explore this whole new area that I can now add to my artwork that, I might not have thought of.
New element, yeah. I love though that you're seeing collectors who specifically want this kind of stuff. It might not have been possible to collect it previously, right? Before NFTs, before Web3. So, I'm really happy that, you've gained like a collector base because your work is amazing and it does stand on its own, in my opinion. I mean, I'd love to have this animated piece on my wall in my room.
Totally. And I think it's a different I think the way that you experience the art is different. I think especially because you have audio in it as well. So that audio visual experience, you can't get that from a painting, right?
Well, you get a different experience with a painting, right?
Right.
But like this is it's just a whole other, it's like two completely different experiences.
Yeah. And Mamba, we're similar where, we both paint and we also do digital stuff, and it's I treat it I don't treat the NFT or the digital work much different other than I'm doing it digitally. And one thing I said, I wasn't really painting digitally until last year once we got in the space. And one of my rules, though, is if I can't paint it, I don't do it. Like, I kind of limit myself in some of these really cool brushes, but that was kind of a rule I gave myself. Now, I don't know if I'll stick to it or not on the digital side of things, but it has been a lot of fun. And, it's definitely different. I don't really see it as two different things anymore. I think maybe I did initially. And I don't know if, coming in, I remember someone telling me about NFTs, a couple of years ago. It was a guy who worked for me in motion graphic stuff. And I was just like, no one's going to buy a JPEG of this work. Probably what everyone said until, and I really didn't understand it, to be honest, until I got in it and until I started collecting. Was because at first I think on Hicket Nuke I would just like, okay, so someone's gonna buy a JPEG of a painting, and they did. I was like, okay. Nice. And then, but it wasn't until I started collecting where I kind of got the bug a little bit, like, oh, I want that, and or I want this artist or that artist, and it really kind of opened my eyes of what this space can do.
Yeah, and back then on Higgitnug, they allowed so many file formats that other platforms didn't have available. Like you could mess with like 3D objects in there. There were people uploading entire video games on there. The possibilities were really. I mean, it was really cool what people were putting up there.
Yeah, that was a good time for y'all. I remember listening.
It was
listening to Mamba on like Clubhouse in the studio. And everybody's just learning and growing together. It seemed like a really good time. Real quick, just to kind of touch base on these foundations. One of these pieces has an original painting connected to it, correct?
Yes, the Partaking with Witches has an original painting that comes with the NFT. What I've learned, or when I talk to some other artists who try to give away paintings, but you're different because I definitely want yours. But a lot of times, I think there was another piece, and someone's like, "Yeah, the guy didn't want the painting."
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, the reason I wanted to highlight that though is because I've seen some of your original paintings from going into your archive, and I think it's really important to note that this NFT that's available right now comes with the original painting. and and that to me is insane.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's
Yeah,
wild.
it's this one's on Foundation. Well, I think it's probably my last piece on Foundation.
What are the
But yeah, I
dimensions of
was
that of the physical? Sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, what are the dimensions of that physical?
I think this one was like 14 high by, I don't remember offhand. I'd have to look at that, but I believe it's like 10 by 14 or something like that. I tend to paint fairly small on a lot of these paintings. For me, I want to get in and get out. Like I'll have an idea, and I have a couple big paintings, but they take me so long to do that I almost just stay away from them unless I have a gallery that really needs, large paintings.
Got it.
Got it. All right, I'm gonna switch over back to the cages so we can kind of stay on track. Beautiful. So these pieces are on Foundation. Okay, so this is the cages collections. This is available on OpenSea. There's a total of how many again?
There's a total of 25, but as of today, I just dropped the 10 last week, and as of today, I believe there's only 6 left.
Wow, it's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's been fun to do. The cages started off as last year when everyone was kind of doing their PFP projects, or I was even thinking about doing a collection of a lot larger collection, but I was just like, you know what, I'm a painter. Let's just hand paint. The only thing that'll be the same, and most of these will be the cage, and we'll just kind of roll from there. That's kind of how this whole project started. And then I started having a lot of fun doing them. And I will say, like, the NFT space has really pushed me creatively, because for a time I got I was shown in some galleries, and then the pandemic hit, and then I think for a lot of us, a lot of galleries either shut down or, just they're not where they used to be. But, so for me, if I don't have a gallery show, I would wait. I wouldn't paint. I would just, hang out with family, and I didn't feel like a necessity. And then, unless I had a show and something to work for, or I just, painting would take me a few months because I just wouldn't be in there much. But then once the NFT space opened up and I was able to grab my iPad, and I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. I could actually sit with the family and paint as we watch a movie or something, versus being locked in my studio all lonely like some hermit. I will say, like, painting digitally has been a lot of fun, and really allowed me to sit with the family and work, which has been awesome.
No, I totally understand that perspective. I mean, we experienced a pandemic over in Southeast Asia, and I think, the NFT space and the artists within the network, I mean, it just provided an outlet, and that's why we, a lot of our energy goes towards building the Ghost Club community. It's because there's a real strength behind the relationships that we've built over the past 2 years. Like, we have artists from across the world who all have the same mindset, like, not the same mindset, but really similar, like, just, I don't know, way of thinking. Like, artists are going through blocks, or they burn out, or they're going through, like, runs where they're doing so much work at one time, and or they have anxiety about this, so there's just so many different common, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, just, what was that? Was that a drink?
No, that was my paperwork.
Oh, no, just like similar things that artists are going through. It's not secluded to just one space or one area or one studio. It just seems like a lot of people across the world who are in this space are kind of going through a lot of similar things, and it's really been helpful to kind of know that while building in your studio, you're not alone. Yeah. And it's provided support in so many different ways. So yeah,
I agree, and I couldn't have met all you guys, and I've met so many amazing people in this space, and I was really surprised because I wasn't on Clubhouse for those years until I kind of got in this space. But it was very weird for me initially when I got on there to even talk, because I'm so used to being in my studio alone.
Right.
And you guys are all working and talking. This doesn't seem right. We're supposed to be these tortured artists, and we're lonely.
You know what was funny though, and this is something else though. A lot of people, like in the spaces that I was in, or even the rooms that I was running, sometimes we weren't talking. We were all quiet. So like every now and then,
Yeah.
sometimes someone would pop in who didn't know what was up and just be like, is anyone here?"
Yeah,
Like,
right.
yeah, we'd have to be like, "Oh yeah, we're all just painting though." Like it'd be so
Yeah.
quiet for like an hour.
Well, it's nice to just have someone in the background, right? Just some kind of company out there when we're, it is really nice.
Yep, and we still do that, right? Like that's what we're doing in
Yeah.
Discord and
Yeah.
quite often. But if I may, can I ask you some questions about your technique and your
Of course.
just kind of want to geek out a little bit because one of the things that
Do you want to go piece by piece, or do you want?
sure you could put on some
All
other
right.
pieces.
So I'm just gonna pause this. Yeah, we'll start with this one. Yeah. So you can. So I pause it, and then we can kind of, skip an image or not. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I personally want to just say I personally think that your ability to draw or paint so many different subject matter, like you can do human, you can do object, you can do animals. I mean, like, you're great with color and composition. So I mean, it's just not something that everyone can do. Like I was like checking out all your stuff. I'm a holder also. Like I collected your stuff
Yes, I
early on.
appreciate that. And vice versa, too.
Thank you.
I didn't win your physical piece yet, but I'll have to wait on another one.
But like,
Um,
I just want to talk to you about that a little bit. Like, you obviously have strong foundations, like fine art foundations, but then you're doing some kind of, it's like pretty, like new media-ish stuff now. You're combining everything. I don't know. You want to talk about your medium and technique, or like your background?
yeah.
Yeah.
So with initially when the original just physical paintings, I just played different backgrounds and things like that, and I somehow got away from that. But there's a lot of texture to the work and a lot of cutouts, and I used to paint on illustration board so I could peel it off, and then I would cut the images out so you almost get a little edge. And I try to do that in some of the digital work too, where there's a hint of a drop shadow or maybe an edge on some of these cut out. I call them little windows. They kind of tell a different story in some of these. On this one, you have a little hand, and I actually think on this piece I was using some of the early AI stuff on some of these cutouts because I was like, you know what, I really like what this is doing. This is digital. I want to portray that this is still a digital space, and what I liked about this is I got into this artifacting, which I use a lot of motion graphics, and I was like, how can I use this? And also, again, like I spoke about, where I don't really want to put anything in my digital work that I can't paint. Now, I have not tried to paint the digital work or the artifacting yet, but I think that's coming up. So we'll see how that goes. But for me, the process, they all come from a painted background, a physical painted background that I've scanned, and most of them use the same thing, and I'll move it, or I'll turn it, or I'll piece it together for different pieces. But the backgrounds themselves, I use chalkboard paint, white chalkboard paint, because I love the fact that I can still draw on it with pencil and things like that. It's really flat, where acrylic, you can't really draw on it with pencil to the effect that I want. So for the background, I did a physical piece, and then the cage came around. I did in Cinema 4. I built it in Cinema 4D. I was like, okay, I was learning the modeling. I've used Cinema a lot, but I've never 100% jumped into it. So I got the cage. The cage, and like I said, initially they're all going to be the same. This new set has some different colors. But as far as technique goes, it really, for me, it all starts with one image. Like, I want to paint. I think this one might have started with this candle because I have done a physical piece with this candle burning on both sides. And so I'll just start drawing one piece of this, and then the story will kind of come out of it, or or I'll get completely stuck and have to move on to something else. But on this one, if I was stuck, maybe I'll just draw this skull guy or this weird skeleton, half dead guy, and and then the story really starts to come out of the elements that I've already put down. And kind of prepping for this interview, I realized how depressing some of my imagery can be,
Yeah,
or
this
like
one, this can
there's
I
a lot
just
of depth.
can I just guess? Does this one have somewhat to do with like mortality? Like
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But if you say that on probably 90% of mine, they probably have that.
Oh,
They share
it'll
that.
match that.
That's
I love
um,
this. I love this piece because I love that. For the digital work, you added this kind of glitch effect onto it. I didn't see that too much in the originals, and I felt like it
yeah.
was a nice, really interesting element.
But I also like this smudgy guy sitting on the top. The
Yeah,
black,
he's cool.
The
The
black
smoky guy.
Yeah, he's
Smudgy.
yeah,
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, but yeah, what is this one called? Yeah, it's called this is Cage's 16. Trying to remember, struggling to forget, and it was really based on, I don't know. I lost my mom last year, and it's always is your life. Did you live a life worth living? Is very important to me. Like, and I teach my girls that, like, we're not here forever. It's when you look back, are you going to be happy about it? And I think that's something that intertwines in a lot of my pieces.
Oh,
But this one was kind of like, looking. The other part of this was like, we have a tendency to really focus on bad memories. We can definitely remember when the bad shit happened to us, and sometimes we forget about some of this really, some of the good stuff, or even just hanging out with your family. And that was something that in the title I wanted to play with.
I love that.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
love that. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. All right. So, do you want to kind of scroll through some other
Yeah.
pieces, and maybe PJ, what the best bet is? Obviously, there's a lot that we have here. Maybe we can scroll, and then you could talk about maybe ones that are most important to you.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, because there
good.
are a few here that mean more. This one was one of them. This one I could talk about really fast.
Sure.
If I forget, hold on, which one is this? I think this is Cage.
I like
Hold
that
on,
he's
I've got-
catching all those things in the net.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this one's about. It's called where'd it go?
I like
So
the
I'm really
bucket.
after my paintings are done, I just forget about them. And I don't know where this one is. Why is this one not up? Oh, here it is.
It's at the top of the collection.
There. Yeah, Fleeting Inspiration was what this was, Cage 19. And this was really about, as artists, we, and my mom, I'm sure you guys both get it, where it's like, maybe you can't think of anything, and then all of a sudden this golden idea pops up, right? And you're like, oh my God, there it is. And that's what we all wait for
Yeah.
as having our artist block or whatever, but we're waiting for this idea. And this is what I kind of wanted to portray in this piece of like this fleeting inspiration. You got to grab it while you can, right?
So interesting.
Yeah, so it's like, and these ideas kind of, once you have a great idea that you want, I know for me anyways, like a lot of this stuff comes up when I first wake up in the morning, or I'm just laying in bed, like not getting up yet, and I'm, an idea will just pop up, and I immediately have to go and write it down in my notes.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'll totally forget it, and maybe maybe it does suck later, but for me it's very important just to write it down.
No,
and get it out.
Yeah.
So this piece is really about that, trying to catch this inspiration. All these weird things are all, represent the inspiration or the idea, and you're trying to get it and grab as much as you can and keep it, for that matter.
That's cool.
Yeah, I could relate to that a lot. I mean, in my old studios, I always have bulletin boards around me, and anytime ideas would kind of pop up, I just stick a pin in it and put it on the board, and some of those things would sit there alone, and then sometimes you'd build around that one idea, and that's for me, that was like how concepts kind of came about. So really cool.
Yeah, I'm a post-it guy, so I have a shit ton of post-its sticking on my computer and in my studio, on the floor, the ones that have fallen off the walls.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, how about
this one was one of the later ones. I talked about it a little bit earlier with the unicorn image that was from original painting, and I really wanted to reuse it and revisit it.
Yeah, beautiful painting of that horse, man.
Yeah, that painting.
Thank you. Yeah, and this one, again, death themed. and this is, I wanted to kind of go with, we hold these things. So it was definitely once beautiful, right? This horse, this unicorn, this amazing creature. And, with everything, it all kind of dwindles and fades. And, again, going back to mortality to a certain degree on this one.
It's great.
Super cool.
And then you have the glitch rainbow.
Do you like horses?
Yeah.
Do you like horses also?
I love horses.
Me too.
My daughters love. I have 3 daughters. They really love horses and won't stop bugging me. We have a small farm, in Los Angeles here, but not any kind of room for a horse.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your.
You got chickens too, right?
You have chickens, right?
Yeah. So we got really lucky. We live on the outskirts of Los Angeles and Hollywood, by the 405 and 101, called Tarzana, and it's they named it Tarzana because that's where the author of Tarzan lived. So they named it Tarzana back in the days. But we got really lucky and found a house that, we live in where all these horses used to be. There used to be 25 horses in like these 2 blocks.
Wow.
So it's very farmy, and we have chickens, we have goats, we have ducks, we have a rabbit. We had more rabbits, but we lost some of those. And Mama, you and I were speaking about this earlier. Is having the farm with my daughters has been great because we grew up in a small farm town. I worked on dairies and things like that. So it's nice to have the girls really experience that part of it, and they've learned about death on the farm. They get out there and have to do their chores, go feed the goats, and and we have a really mean rooster named Rudy. So he's in his own little cage because if you turn his back on him, he'll attack you.
I think that's awesome, dude. I think,
yeah.
We have kids too, and, one of the hardest things is sometimes to prime away from these, the electronics and the technology.
Oh, yeah.
So, the fact that you have that, option to kind of get their hands dirty and calloused up, I think it's an important balance in life.
But also that, just having that, knowing that, this stuff's not going to get done unless you do it, and these critters rely on you at specific times of day, too.
Right.
You can't, you can't shirk your duties.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
And then,
Trust me, I still have to pry them out of their iPads and make them go to it.
It's hard. I mean, that's the design to be that way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's been nice having these animals, and it's nice to take a break, especially from the computer, and just go outside and sit. The goats will come up and kind of nuzzle you a bit, and the ducks kind of run the farm. They're like a street gang. It's pretty funny, quacking around and bullying everyone out of their food.
Oh, that's funny.
I have a quick question about this piece. I mean, the anatomy is pretty interesting, and it's amazing. I mean, is it? Obviously, I'm not a painter, but how difficult is that to kind of get in there and
Yeah, this one, I think this might have even been, and I painted that part of it over 10 years ago for sure.
Wow.
That piece. So, but I do remember it being very, I have the anatomy books. I have a couple horse anatomy books, and we cheated a lot on it to make it visually fun.
Yeah, it's awesome though.
You can do
Thank you.
My first recognizable animal I ever drew was a horse when I was 3, and I remember
They're fun to draw, and they're still kind of hard. I mean, I feel like I've drawn quite a bit of them, and I don't getting them right yet.
That made me want to do something more challenging because that's pretty epic. Well, let's hear more about this one.
Okay.
This one is. Let me pull my note.
Thank you for taking so much time with us, by the way, PJ.
Oh no, thanks for having me. I mean, trust me, I've been spending so much time with these pieces, and it's good for me to even talk about them. It makes me rethink. I think a lot of time I'm in the moment, and I want these things to be ambiguous as well. I don't want them to just have a linear meaning. So hopefully I'm not ruining it for anyone else who might have thought these meant something else, but this is kind of what I was thinking while doing it.
No, I think it's great. A lot of the times, going through some of the NFT collections, sometimes you're like just flipping really quickly through art, and the fact that we get this opportunity to sit down with you and kind of chat about each piece is, I don't know, for me it's pretty fascinating and interesting. I'm having a good time, and hopefully we get some other great artists on here. I want to listen to everyone else's talk about their work. Right.
So this one's called Nothing, That's the Ideal. And this is from, again, up early. I get up super early in the morning, like probably 4 o'clock, sometimes earlier. And I'll go in the studio because it's nice and quiet. No one's bugging me. But I was listening to a band called All Them Witches. And this song is called Nothing, That's the Ideal. And I really like that term and that line in the song. So this, again, we're going to get into death and mortality.
Got a common theme here.
Yeah. So I wanted, again, it's end of life. You're going through it. We go through all these cycles of life, depression, happiness, definitely lots of cycles. But this one, I was kind of like, okay, there's a spirituality in this about wanting nothing else. Like I'm done, right? This is it. I'm kind of one of these hands to be like, I'm giving up, right? I also wanted the hands to have this feeling of, I grew up in on my mom's side was very religious. On my dad's side, not religious at all. So I grew up in this kind of like middle ground of learning about Christianity, and on the other side going, what are you talking about? Like, don't listen to that.
Such a funny dynamic.
Yeah, like I remember one time I was so sad because, like, my dad's side was I was really young and crying because, like, Dad's not gonna go to heaven, and my mom's like, what are you talking about? He's not saved. He's not gonna go. Just having this full on breakdown, and talk to my dad about, like, you're gonna go to hell, and him as a dad's like, okay,
I'll be fine.
Whatever you think, whatever you're thinking at this point in your life. But my mom was very hardcore, devoted Christian. After, she was also, I feel like a lot of people who were heavily religious did a lot of bad shit early on. So she was also a drug addict and all this other stuff before she found that. And I'm always thankful that people find something better or a better situation than what they were.
Totally.
But she would, awesome. She would have these groups over, and they would pray on each other and raise hands, and you see, and they're singing songs, and their hands are in the air, and they would speak in tongues. It was, looking back, I just go, "That's pretty crazy experience." And the hands really reminded me of that, lifting your hands up to God type thing.
Yeah.
And that was something I wanted to put in this piece. Is like, you're kind of giving up, you're kind of letting go, and you're letting something else control it. Now, that could be good or bad sometimes, whatever the outcome is.
I love that.
That's cool.
Yeah, I know what that's like too. Growing up in families that my uncle's a priest and stuff like that, and I've kind of been in the same boat where it's like just being around it. I've picked up some things, and I think it's almost, I think it's important that you can kind of understand to learn how to respect certain cultures, even if I don't believe in it. I keep my ears open, and
100%.
There's always valuable things, and maybe sometimes not valuable, but it's really dependent on your perspective. And I think keeping an open mind, I think you can pull some stuff out of that. So that's really cool.
There's definitely a lot of religious artifacts in a lot of my work as well, and that all comes from that, being raised that way.
Okay, I have a question. What is the symbolism of the bendy bones? I keep seeing bendy bones.
So on that first one, that's on the first one we showed with the skeleton. Well, I didn't touch on that, but it's kind of it's bending its path is the way I see these. Like, we're all very malleable.
Okay.
So that's what I like about you're shaping your existence, if that makes any sense. And on this piece, like the snake bone and the little window up there where the girl's kind of battling these snakes, just represent the hardship, right?
Yeah.
The hardships that come after us, and how that's also a part of us. And that's kind of what I wanted to show with the bones. And then also, dealing with the death, I wanted to kind of go back to this, the artifacting part, which I really think, is it reminds me of when you used to have to tune in your TV, right, with antennas, and you would have to get this picture was all pixelated, and you would finally get it. It's like, oh, cool. And then, but one little slip, you go out of focus and you've lost it.
Yeah, I know.
And that's kind of the way I think about this. And you know, a lot of the artifacting on a lot of these pieces is kind of about that. Is like, you're not quite there, you're not quite not there, you're just in the space in between, or you're transitioning into something else.
Really cool messaging. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Thanks.
we're asking questions that are revealing these things. You know, I draw bones a lot, and I've never drawn a bendy bone, so that really stood out to me. I kept seeing the bendy bone, so I love that.
Wrong.
It's very cool. Your
Thank
existence is malleable.
So here's
your
what
path, your path is malleable.
Here's what I'm thinking, PJ. We probably got like 10 minutes left. Do you want to?
Okay.
Do you feel like you want to pull certain ones that you want to talk about, or should we just let it play and we could just have open talk? How do you?
You know, I can go real quick on probably a couple, like this Viking one.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Misinterpreted Valhalla, and this one was really about not fitting in or not fitting into your specific role. You know, there's a lot of gender stuff going on now, a lot of sexual orientation and things like that. And this piece was really about being like, what if you were born, you know, I was thinking in my head, like in this Viking community, but you wanted nothing to do with it, and you could never get to Valhalla because of it.
Oh, wow.
So there was kind of, that's the thought on this one. But yeah, we could go ahead and move on. And
this one I love.
Yeah, this one's cool.
This one is strictly from drinking Mickey's malt liquor as a young man. That's really what this one is all about. And you know, some nights were fun, some nights were not, and you know, I'm glad we survived it. I had the opportunity to drink some Mickey's malt liquor because my wife bought it for me as a joke for my birthday, and I was like, how the hell was I drinking this ever?
Yeah. There's a lot of things we've done in the past where I think nowadays, like, wow, that's really fucking great.
Don't tell your kids. They always want to hear the bad stories. I would like to touch on this one because I feel when I did it, there was definitely a thought in my head, and this is when, you know, they started to overturn Roe versus Wade.
Wow.
And me having 3 daughters who I want to protect, and I want them to have their voices, and I want them to, it's going to be any difference, and I want them to speak their mind. And I was really, I mean, just offended and very upset that, you know, any government can tell any girl, any woman what to do with their bodies. And this piece really came out of that moment and that feeling. I'll just kind of touch on some of it. So the middle vase thing, I was really thinking almost as ovaries. And this pearl with all this gook. And a lot of times I have all this gook in these paintings, like this black. And I just think that's kind of like lifeblood, or like, you know, effects of life kind of coming through. But I just wanted to see, like, you know, this perfect object kind of, or this perfect, beautiful object being destroyed a little bit. And, you know, there's a lot of little things in here I won't get into, but I don't know. For me, I had a lot of fun painting that vase on the top right that's pouring this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I want it to look like, you know, this vase, China vase, where you go in and it's, you know, there's a really strong woman and they're battling these things if you're able to zoom in on it and look at it. But that was the basis of this piece, and I wanted, you know, this kind of like this scorpion tail thing that was strong armor, you know, to protect thing, and like, and it just really bugged me during that time, and I just needed to get it out, and this is the way I did it.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff, PJ.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
we're definitely in the same boat as you. We have a daughter, and
Yep.
you know, the fact
Meadow,
that,
right?
yeah, and the fact that somebody or a government thinks that they have the right to choose what she can do with her body is, to me, crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I really love that all these pieces, you know, a lot of like your family and things close to you are really inspiring, a lot of the subject matter in here. And I don't know, it really shows this really personal side to your paintings and stuff.
Also,
Yeah.
before you said anything, I felt that from this piece.
Yeah.
Just so you know, when I saw
Okay.
this piece, I've like pretty much felt that about it. And I was glad that that feeling was correct.
Yeah, and this one's called Keep Close and Hold Tight, and that's, you know, a lot of times I'll put, you know, writings in the work. I've always kind of done that. But this one I finished it the day I released the final, like, wording for it, and I was like, this is what this is. This is definitely an important piece for me. I really like this one.
Do you get into depth in like when you're doing your paintings and your artwork? Do you talk to your like your daughters about the stuff? And
No, not at all. I mean, they think I'm just some crazy dude in the room. I think one of my favorite experiences I've ever had is I grew up mainly with my grandma, and she shot from the hip. So there was one time she was probably in her 90s at the time, and she's like, "I'm going to tell you what your paintings are about." And because I think I'd given her a book, like a zine that I had made to give to art directors. Oh, here, Grandma. Like, she's all, "What do you think? You think I want this?"
So
I also used to mess with her, and I used to paint paintings, and I used to change her paintings in her house to see if she would notice with one of my works,
That's
and
so
she would
funny.
always notice.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
That's great.
It was so, but she was like, "What is this?" Until I got like a little, not recognized, but some recognition in it. Like, yeah, Grandma, they bought this for this much money. She's like, "What? They bought that ugly thing?"
It's about you. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're in all of these. Yeah, but she was really supportive. She's the one who helped me go through art school and basically signed for my loans.
Aww.
And
that's awesome.
up until the end, we had it, but it was funny for her hearing her tell me what the paintings are.
That's so funny.
I was like, okay, great. But no, the girls, they'll come. I do with the girls. What I do too is I'll set up drawing rooms with them in my studio and try to teach them things. I don't know. They listen to me half the time.
That's okay. They're subconsciously they're being influenced more than we actually think.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're great artists. I'm sure Meadow probably is too. But it's like just kind of push them a little bit. Like, come on, let's do this.
Yeah. Just having it open, like available, and encouraging a little bit. Yeah, that's the way.
Yeah, exactly. So they have an avenue, because I think if you push things too much, they go the opposite way,
Totally.
as we all do.
Yeah.
This piece was one of the last ones. So when we were younger, we would take our bikes out, and in Tulare, it's wide open country, and we would ride bikes for hours. We wouldn't have to come back until the streetlights came on. We were on our own. I would never let my daughters do that now. But back then, we went out, and there was a place called Okiesville, which I don't believe is a real place. And this piece is all about riding our bikes out there. And there was a big trailer park community. It was my cousin's uncle on his other side. He was named the mayor of Okiesville. And he had, at the time, he had older kids, so they were all smoking cigarettes and weed, and, we're all pretty young. And he went out back, and he had a chicken farm, which I didn't know they're all roosters. So he goes out, and he asks us to pick out a rooster and name it. We're all, okay, so we're all happy, thinking we're going to be able to keep these roosters. And he's okay, when you guys come back, I'll let you know. And we'll let you know how they did. I'm like, what is he talking about? So we make the trek out there like the next weekend or weekend after. And I'm like, I don't remember what, Benjamin Franklin or something I named it. It was something dumb. But where's he at? Oh, he didn't win. And I didn't realize. But he was fighting chickens.
Yeah.
He was a big chicken fighter out there. And, just these little stories. So this piece is kind of about that visit to this very white trash area for me that was so much fun and so mythical and mystical too. About just jumping on your bike and riding out there.
That's awesome.
And just being free too at the same time.
Yeah, that's a brutal. I don't know what you call it. I don't think you call it a sport. Yeah. But
no,
I've been in the Philippines. I've gone to it. They call it sabong. And they put like these 4-inch blades on them, and
yep, that's what he did as well.
Yeah. It's pretty brutal, and they bet a lot of money, and it's very common practice there. I mean, you'd have to like go into jungles now to do it. Because it's obviously frowned upon. But yeah,
and it was illegal then too. It was they were definitely betting and making money on it, and they had a whole ring and everything out there.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. It was nuts.
Aw, poor Benjamin Franklin.
I know. Right? This one's called "Pretty Girls Make Graves," and it's kind of about finding that love or attraction, and really, really falling for somebody, and that's basically what this one really is about. There's no.
Mama, stop looking at me in my eyes right now. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. Watch out. See? Yeah, I'm happy I've been married for a long time and don't have to go through that whole. I feel sorry for my daughters because I know it's going to be coming.
Oh man, let's not go into that conversation.
I know,
that's gonna kill me. Jesus Christ.
Yep. I love him.
What? No, dude. All your paintings are gonna be like black. Then it's gonna be like
I know, right?
like red and black. Yeah. It's like this is me and the daughter's boyfriend. And
I can't show you. No. But this is really about finding love and my take on that whole process. Like, watch out, because when you fall, right?
Yeah, awesome.
This one was what was this one?
One of the I forget what the number.
Yeah, I think 24. Yeah, Lay Your Head On Down. And this one was really inspired just by there's a band called Moonface with Spencer Krug, and he has a song called Lay Your Cheek On Down. And again, touching on some of this death stuff and trying to hold on to what you have as things slip away, even though some things might be weighing you down anyways, that maybe you should let go of. Was kind of the basis for this piece here.
This one's kind of one of my favorite, and it's also kind of reminds me of a banana ghost.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I've played with the color so much, and I just kept it there. I was like, I like this color with this book.
But I actually used to make that for like the kids for Halloween to bring to school. Like I'd put little chocolate chips in the banana and chop them in half. The banana looks like a ghost. Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah. I'm gonna do that for my daughters tomorrow. Actually, nice. That sounds great.
They're gonna love it.
Okay, maybe they'll finally eat them. They keep going raw or rotten. They get rotten pretty quick around here.
Oh,
so I think we're circled back. To the first one.
Wow, that was awesome. That was so fucking cool to kind of go through all those pieces with you, PJ.
Really cool.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening to my rants.
Dude, no way. I don't even think it's a rant at all. I mean, to be honest, hanging out with artists all the time, it's, I'm inspired by so many different things, whether it's work ethic or it's, their passion for what they're doing. But to really sit down with you and dissect these paintings, I don't know, it's kind of a much different experience than I'm accustomed to, like, than when we do, like, Twitter Spaces and something like that. I really like how this format is working.
I would like to see in person, to be honest, I would like to see your physical painting next to the piece that's animated on the screen. Yeah. And the reason I wanted to say that, actually I thought of it earlier, but we kind of moved on already. It's like the technical detail of like looking at art that's coming out of a light source, which is a unique experience from seeing something that's interacting with the natural light of the space it's in that doesn't project light at all, right? So like there's certain things that I think will be fun to see both sources of your work. It'd be nice to see it
are you guys coming out for NFTLA? I think you mentioned something about that.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yep.
Okay. Well, you guys have a place.
I'm gonna bet on it because Mumbot goes everywhere now. She's like she's like the Terminator.
Hopefully you guys bring metal. You guys are more than welcome to crash here on the farm. We have plenty of room.
We love that.
If you need it. Otherwise, let's try to make a day, and I'll show you some of those pieces in person.
Cool. So wait, let's quickly just recap. We have cages. There's 6 available. It's on OpenSea. This QR code, hopefully it works, will link you to PJ's, I guess, links and his
link tree, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can find it there. You can find the link on his Twitter.
Yes.
And I just
your pinned tweet.
Yes, it's on there. My pin tweet is for the super rare. We just got accepted, so I'm working on some pieces for that.
Wow! Congrats.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, yours too, Mumbart, right?
Yeah,
We're-
thanks. Thank
We'll
you.
probably drop around the same time, so congrats.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's definitely on there. Cages is just CAGES on OpenSea. And yeah, other than that, I really appreciate you guys having me on here.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you
you so
guys.
Hey,
We'll see you guys soon. There'll be another artist coming up on Ghost Club Artist Spotlight. Well, I guess we'll send out tweets about it, and yeah, we'll find out. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Let's ghost.
Okay.
let's go.
Thank you, PJ. Peace.